Welcome to this special edition of In Center Ring. I'm your host, Jonathan Lee Iverson. Normally, I would have a guest on, as I have in previous episodes. I think this week is very special, and I'd like to speak about it. I'd like to speak about current events that are rather universal and affecting us all in some way. I'd like to speak about the necessity of self-care, the necessity of listening to one another, and the necessity of equipping ourselves to move forward. It won't be enough to just rage in the wind, to contend on social media. We've done that ad nauseum. In fact, what we're experiencing is almost like some sort of morbid holiday. An injustice happens, and justice is not done, and the people are outraged. And at the end, when the smoke clears, after all of the hashtags and tweets and memes and political jockeying and opportunists who come in and swoop in and gin up the public, nothing gets done, evidenced by the fact that we're here again. We're in the middle of a pandemic, a very deadly pandemic. Here in the United States, it's been reported that over 110,000 people have succumbed to COVID-19 since February. A disease that, from what we're told, attacks the lungs, our breathing. And then the world watched as George Floyd was essentially suffocated to death by one who swore to serve and protect. This has had a visceral reaction, to say the least. This has aroused communities all over this country and all over the world. And I might add, it has exposed that this is not an issue exclusive to the United States of America. It is one that is global. Our global neighbors, America, are hurting as well. I want to first address what motivated this particular episode, and that is my own personal self-care. I had a wonderful meeting this morning, a breakfast meeting, with friends from my church. One would consider this church a mega church. It is densely diverse, as is the population of the city it is based in. And the two other couples I met with, along with my wife, were different than me. One white, one Latino. And what ensued, in my opinion, was an awesome conversation. It was a hard conversation. It was a conversation where we didn't all agree. But it was a conversation where we all listened. It was a conversation where grace was given to each and every person there to express themselves. No one was demeaned. No one was called out their name. No one's disagreement was written off. We listened. We took the time. I'm not boasting about myself. But what I will boast about is the possibilities. That we do have the power. We do have the wherewithal to create environments for this necessary exchange. And this brings me to the necessity of self-care, the necessity of pulling back from social media, and all media in general. It can be useful, it can be powerful, but it's still a lot of information. You're still taking in energy, good, bad, and otherwise. Information and misinformation, you're taking a lot. And quite frankly, it cannot be healthy to find yourself immersed in that atmosphere constantly with a mind corroded with in, just in diluted with information, just enveloped with too much information and too much contention. And then you have to contend with the opportunists and pariahs that always arise in times like this to spew more fume and to spew more fuel, rather, on the fire. And then we become more stubborn, don't we? We resign ourselves to our little corners. And we put up our walls because you have to be right. So I implore you to move back, to self-care, to mend yourself, for no other reason but to breathe and for your sanity. And I think we all know, having witnessed the most recent events, our breath is most precious. I implore you to then reach out. If you want to know, then you'll make the effort to know. If you want to really be a part of a solution, then you'll make the effort to do it. You don't need an invite. You don't need a catchphrase. You just need a heart. You just need a heart that leans toward such things. Now, I am under no illusions here. This message, this episode isn't for everybody. There are those of you who tune in for whatever reasons you have, and those of you who have cut it off already because you're stuck and your heart is hardened and your head is equally as hardened. And quite frankly, those are the kind of people that we just can't progress with. But for those of you who have at least an inkling of empathy, at least an inkling of an open heart, I implore you, reach out to each other and foster environments where you can be heard and you can hear. Don't just enter environments that are just about your point of view and just about you. Now, mind you, I'm not saying to enter environments to endure stubbornness and those who truly don't mean you well, who truly aren't for the call of justice and equity. Those who go, well, that was a bad thing, but no, they're not serious. Because either we're going to respect the priorities that we've set for ourselves, or we're not. And somewhere I read that all of this great thing called America is about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You can't pursue happiness, you can't pursue liberty without life. Let us prioritize life, not images that gin you up, that you believe are the sum total of the resistance that you see out there. While no one condones the damage of property or theft, you have to know in your consciousness that overwhelmingly these demonstrations are peaceful, with peaceful people who want radical solutions, who understand that we as a people and as a world are in peril if we don't get this right. So reach out. Start where you are. begin to educate yourself. There's so many different authors, speakers on these matters. If you want to know, you'll seek it out. You'll seek out the knowledge you need. Educate yourself. Learn. Again, listen. Find out where your blind spots are. Find out where your own biases may exist. Do some self-examination. We all have something. We all have a blind spot. And I think nothing frightens people more than the possibility that their blind spot may be that you might other people. And why wouldn't you, if you think about it? When you think about how much information is we're inundated with the narratives of others and narratives of our own selves and people groups and all these things, why wouldn't you? Just because you discover that you may be infected doesn't mean you're a bad person. You're just infected. But if you know, or rather, when you know better, you do better. As the late great American writer Maya Angelou once said. And once you do that, once you educate yourself and examine yourself, then you can go out and be a light, not only in your own home, but in your larger community. Please understand, this is much bigger than our judicial system, our criminal justice system, our law enforcement. What people are dealing with isn't just a breach of trust or perceived abuses by these segments of our society, but what we're dealing with is a whole host of things. It's housing, it's employment, it's healthcare, it's access to food. There are food deserts in this country, in marginalized communities, meaning there are grocery stores that, they just might as well not even be there because their products are so subpar. This all comes down to us being better neighbors. It's as simple as that. And as I see it, we are failing the golden rule with flying colors, and it's quite shameful. And it does not speak to an evolutionary people. It speaks to people who enjoy a hamster wheel that goes nowhere but crushes its neighbors. And so I implore us to be better neighbors by taking care of ourselves, by educating ourselves, by reaching out and listening to others, and really, truly listening. Really, truly hearing what people are expressing. And having the courage to go in with them, to get out of your box, to get uncomfortable, because change demands we be uncomfortable. I thank you for taking the time to visit this part of my world. If you enjoy this or any other content on this channel, I invite you to subscribe. I'll see you next time.